everybody, this is Casey back again with Aligned Astrology, and today we're going to talk about the full moon in Gemini. Now this full moon in Gemini is going to culminate on December 4th. It's going to be at 13 degrees in Gemini, right across from the sun in the sign of Sagittarius. So I wanted to speak today about Mercury as the ruler of this full moon in Gemini. It's always important that when we're looking at a full moon, we want to look at the ruler of that full moon and what all the other planets are doing in order to get a bigger picture of the story of the full moon. Nothing in astrology is singular. Everything is one big story. It's like a big play with these deities, these planets in the sky. So with the dispositor of the full moon, Mercury, it is in the sign of Scorpio. And when Mercury is in the sign of Scorpio, it's going to take on those internal martial characteristics. It's going to be taking on those scorpionic characteristics, moving into the deep, watery domicile of Scorpio. It can shift the planet of communication, Mercury, into internal conflicts. In this case, when we think about Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, since Mercury has been retrograde since about November 10th, it retrograded from Sagittarius at 6 degrees back into Scorpio. It is time for rethinking. So when we think about Scorpio and Mercury in Scorpio, we can correlate Mercury with the mind or our communication. So Mercury in Scorpio can be very witty and deep and intense and very expressive and communicative. But when Mercury goes retrograde in Scorpio, it becomes an internal battle, an internal conflict with the self, the mind, the thoughts, and maybe even the way we Mercury and Scorpio natives choose to speak. These things are all subject to change or move in a different direction when Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Scorpio. So when we think about that retrograde Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, it has those strong characteristics of being deep in thought and witty and strong in expression, but it also craves security. And it can have a tendency to split itself in half and wanting to go in one direction for its own satiation, like filling the cup of Hermes, finding that emotional satiation, or moving in a direction of finding mental stability, mental clarity, like I know this is the direction that I need to go in order to achieve my goals. So as this Mercury is retrograde, it takes that opportunity to slow down and see what the correct direction is for itself. Now, when we think about any or both of the Martian signs, such as Aries and Mars, these are the signs, the domiciles of the planet Mars that wants to take action and move forward towards its goals. But when any planet goes retrograde in them, it takes a step back from the action-oriented goal movement forward and make sure it's going in the right direction. So as this planet Mercury has stationed direct on the 29th of November, a couple days after Thanksgiving here in America, we can see that Mercury has been reborn. Anytime Mercury retrogrades and stations direct, it's fairly close to the sun. So anytime the sun and Mercury come into conjunction, or let's say it like this, anytime any planet comes into conjunction with another planet and then separates, they begin what we call a synodic cycle. We can think about the sun and our birthday. Every time we have a birthday, we grow 1 year older. And that sun moves around the entire zodiac, 365 days, to come back to that same point for us to grow another year older. These synodic cycles give the planets a birthday. They are born again. They grow older. They gain more insight. They gain more wisdom in order to move forward. So with our Mercury stationing direct and beginning to move forward after it's began that synodic cycle, it now can bring us clarity along with what this full moon has to offer us. So as we look through the zodiac today and we look at each of the rising signs, we'll not only look at what the house of Gemini, where the full moon lies, has to show for us, but we'll also look at that sign of Scorpio and the whole sign correlation with the house of Gemini. So we can see how this bigger picture is being painted for us in our experience and what direction we may be going in now. So I'm going to pull the astrology chart up for us. And we're going to go ahead and look at the chart right now. So here we can see that about December 4th, 15 past 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because I'm in New York, we can notice that this full moon in Gemini is at 13 degrees. It's also fun to mention that the full moon is going to be in a square with the nodes, North Node and South Node. So the nodes of fate is what some people call them. But usually when we have planets in aspectual connection with the nodes, it's like fated events to come in our experience. So maybe we'll speak a little bit about those shortly as we move through the 12 zodiac signs. We're going to start with Aries. And it's always important to notice that we read from whole sign houses, sign by sign. Now you can listen to your sun sign, like for example, I'm a Sagittarius sun. We can go ahead and listen to my sun sign as we go through the 12 zodiacs, but it is more beneficial for me to listen to my rising sign, which is Scorpio Rising, because it helps me to determine where all of the planets are in my natal chart and how this information that we astrologers share is going to actually affect us. As a traditional Hellenistic astrologer, I like to share from the whole sign house system, because this is where horoscopic astrology came from the Hellenistic tradition that uses the whole sign tropical house system. So we're going to go ahead and start with the Aries Risings. And Aries Risings are going to experience this full moon in Gemini in the third house. Now, having the moon in the third house places it in what we call its planetary joy. Now, each of the traditional planets have its planetary joy. So when we think about a planet and its joy, it can receive great benefit from being in this house. It just naturally works well in this place. The moon is correlated with our emotions and our expression. The third house is our day-to-day experiences. It's our environment, the people we connect with. And the moon moves quick, but it's also in the sign of Gemini here. So it's a very communicative, expressive experience that we may be coming into, where we can gain a lot of clarity through the communication and the relationships that we have and we see on a daily basis. Speaking to Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, which just stationed direct, meaning it may have gained new clarity since our new moon that we had in Scorpio 2 weeks ago. This Mercury in the sign of Scorpio in the 8th house of the esteem of others or other people's resources can show that through our daily experiences, we may be able to gain some sort of new insight, new clarification on a direction we may be moving in. Maybe our daily experience is going to change based off of a connection that we have or some information that we may have gained that we can now use to be different in our daily lives, to connect deeper to our one-on-one relationships. Now, I also want to mention that as Mercury moves forward out of its shadow, because when any planet goes retrograde, it moves back into its retrograde shadow, and it has to progress forward back to the point of where it went retrograde. So we may not see these signs come to full fruition for a couple more weeks when Mercury moves back into the sign of Sagittarius, passing 6 degrees. So this can be like a build up here. Our daily experiences gradually beginning to change, our conversations transforming our experience. And as Mercury moves forward, it's going to activate that grand water trine that we talked about in one of our previous videos as well, highlighting these 3 houses once more, which can be reiterating or reconfiguring those emotional processes that we went over before. Now we have new insight and clarity towards those things in our experience, towards the relationships that we may be a part of, whether it's relationships with our families or our spousal relationships, or even the relationship with ourselves and how we choose to see ourselves. Maybe these things are changing because of these daily experiences that we're coming into. For Aries Risings, let us know how this one comes up for you. We'll move the chart forward now, and we're going to experience it for Taurus Risings. Taurus Rising, you get to experience a full moon in Gemini in the 2nd house of skills and abilities. It can be our talents. It can also be our financial well-being. This 2nd house, 8th house axis is the financial axis. The 2nd house is our assets, the things connected to us. So the 8th house is the assets of other people. So having the full moon in the 2nd house can shine some light on our pockets, our financial well-being. It can be a very beneficial connection we may be coming into that can lead us towards more financial well-being. When we look at the dispositor of this full moon, Mercury, in the sign of Scorpio that is stationed direct, we can see that a one-on-one relationship may be your direction. A conversation from a one-on-one relationship may show you what direction you need to go in order to secure your financial well-being, or connect with a partner that will help you in your financial well-being. It could be a business partner, a conversation guiding you towards a new foundational connection with your work. When we think about that Mercury moving forward to highlight those 3 houses, it can be your daily experiences changing because of that relationship, or a community you're becoming involved with, all because of this full moon shining its light. So when we look into the sign of Taurus here for our Taurus risings, it's all going to be about the connections that we have from the people around us that are going to help us and support us in our financial endeavors, and the skills that we have to offer it to reciprocate those. So for Taurus risings, let us know how that one is going to come up for you. We move forward to Gemini risings, who have this full moon in the 1st house. Now when we look at the idea of full moons are always culmination points, right? So we can think about it as the fruit has bloomed from the tree, and it's almost time for harvest. It's at its high point. So when we have the full moon in the 1st house, correlated with our own physical body, our personal expression, it can be our identity, our ego, whatever the case may be, something along these lines of what it means to be ourself is correlated with the 1st house. So there may be a time of letting go of something in this case. And when we look to the dispositor, Mercury, which is in the 6th house in Scorpio, it can show that our daily efforts towards a particular goal may be changing. And when our goals change, a lot of the times, especially in society these days, we change because majority of us are goal-oriented, goal-driven. We go to college and we get jobs, we have families, and all of these things are require goals, right? We need to be moving towards something in order to make everything better, make our jobs better, improve in our family life. So as this Mercury has station direct in the 6th house, which is our house of self-sacrifice, our service for others, it shows us that our new way of thinking or our new way of expression is changing, moving us towards a new understanding, a new goal orientation, a new way of self expression, so that we can get what we want or get what we need in our relationships. Maybe it's with our family. Maybe it's the relationship with ourselves, or it could be even our spousal partner. So, as this full moon unfolds in the first house, Gemini Rising, just notice what's changing in your own personal experience of yourself for you. We'll move to Cancer Risings. Cancer Risings will experience this full moon in the sign of Gemini in the 12th house. Now, the 12th house in traditional astrology was seen as a bad house. That doesn't mean it's bad. That's what we call it as Hellenistic astrology, because the 12th house does not have any aspectual connection to the first house, which is the helm. The first house is where we consider ourselves to be, and we cannot see the 12th house. So the 12th house can be correlated with hidden enemies, the ones we can't see, our subconscious mind. It can also be a place of solitude or exile. I always like to say that when we think about the 12th house as the hidden enemies, we can be our own worst hidden enemy based off of our mind and how we think about ourselves and how we see the world through our rose-colored glasses. We may miss the mark on the things we need to see about ourselves. So when there's a full moon in this 12th house, it's a great opportunity to see ourselves, because the sun, the light of the sun, is being shined into the 12th house, opening the door for clarity and insight. And when we can look at the dispositor, the ruler of the full moon, which is Mercury in the sign of Scorpio, it is in the 5th house of creativity. So when we think about Mercury here, which is just stationed direct, it now is moving in a new direction. It is very very well oriented towards its goals on an internal level, but it is a creative aspiration that needs to be expressed here. So when we think about that Mercury here, when it comes to our creative capabilities, something may be coming up from the subconscious mind, something that we may have not known about before, or something that's resurfacing around what we like to do, what we like to create, and what we might want to share with the people around us. Now, as that Mercury moves forward, it's going to reactivate that grand water trine, and it's going to reactivate that Jupiter in our first house. Now, Jupiter is exalted in our first house, and it's important to notice that when we have Jupiter in our first house, it can transform us in a great way. When we think about Jupiter in the sign of Cancer, it can represent sperm, and Cancer, the sign, represents fecundation. So if you're a Cancer rising and you're a woman, you could be a man too as a Cancer rising. Maybe this is an opportunity to build a family with Mercury in the 5th house, the 5th house of children. Maybe it's an opportunity to create a new business. Maybe it's an opportunity to use your skills and your abilities in order to become more creative with them, to share with the people around you. There's just an opportunity for creation here for you Cancer rising. So let us know what you're going to create. We're going to move forward. For Leo risings who will experience this full moon in the 11th house. Now, the full moon in the 11th house is correlated with the communities we may be a part of. It can be our acquaintances. And when we think about the 11th house as the house of good fortune, these connections, these acquaintances that we have are usually positive ones that benefit us. So the dispositor of that full moon, Mercury in the 4th house of home, family, and foundation, can show that the connections with our family, or even our awareness of our upbringing, can help us to see life in a different way now, or show up differently in the communities that we may be a part of. And when we can show up differently in communities, maybe more authentically, because when we think about the sign of Scorpio, Scorpio is one of the signs that does not naturally fare well being fake. It's important for Scorpio to be able to express itself naturally in order for the alluring characteristics to be present. Scorpio is a naturally magnetic sign when it operates as itself. So when we think about Leo risings having the whole sign placement of Scorpio in the fourth house, it can show that your upbringing may have molded you to be a particular way. And having Scorpio move through this house, go through the retrograde and station direct here, it's an opportunity to notice these things about ourselves and bring them to the light, bring them to the communities that we're a part of, so we can be seen for who we really are and express ourselves naturally and authentically with our creative endeavors. So as a Leo rising, let your light shine. Be mindful of what you want to share and allow yourself to share genuinely, authentically, not because you feel like you should or you have to, but because that's what you want to do and you'll be well received. We're going to move forward and we're going to look at Virgos. So our Virgo risings are going to experience this full moon in the 10th house. Now, as a Virgo rising, you're ruled by Scorpio. You're ruled by Mercury, which is in Scorpio. So when we think about the full moon in the 10th house, our career, our public role, what the world sees us for, this is who we are, right? This is who we are as ourselves, showing up in the world. So when we have Mercury in the third house of our day-to-day experiences, our environment, the people we connect with, it can show that we may be gaining some personal clarity around ourselves, and maybe we've been doing too much for other people and possibly not enough for ourselves, or vice versa. Maybe it's an opportunity for us to become more balanced in our way of being, our way of expressing, and our way of sharing our skills with everyone around us. When we take a look at that Scorpio in the third house, it's going to soon reactivate its grand water trine with the 11th house and the 7th house. Now, the third house, 7th house, and the 11th house, they are all the communication houses, right? So when we think about the third house, it's the people we see on a daily basis. It can be our siblings. The 7th house is our one-on-one relationships. The 11th house is our community relationships. So as Mercury moves through the third house, it is inviting us to express ourselves naturally as we are to all of the people around us, so that way we can be seen for who we want to be, not for who we feel like we need to be for everybody else, but what comes natural to us, what is authentic to us. For Virgo risings, let us know how that one comes up. Libra risings, you get to experience this full moon in the 9th house. The 9th house is the house of higher learning. It can be truth, religion, astrology. So when we think about the full moon in Gemini, it can be wrapped around the information that we've gained to this point, and it's reaching its ripening process. And when anything reaches its ripening process, it's almost time for harvest. We're taking this knowledge, this information, and we're going to use it for the benefit of ourselves and for the benefit of others. That Mercury in the second house of Scorpio, in charge currently of our skills, talents, and abilities. It can be our mental faculties, right? We've gained this information, we have it in our minds, and now that Mercury is stationed direct, we've gained further clarity in the direction we want to go with this information. Maybe we felt like we'd been in that state of limbo. Like, why am I learning these things? Why am I moving in this direction? And now all of a sudden Mercury is stationed direct and it's beginning to move forward. Maybe we're beginning to find the direction. It's slowly revealing itself. We're gaining that insight that we need to move forward with this information we've gained. And it's going to be correlated with that work that we do with it. How are we going to apply it to ourselves on a daily, in our daily efforts? What are we using this information for? And once we've understood how we want to use it, how can we support the other people around us with it? How can we make it into a career if that's what we want to do? Or maybe we just want to be of charitable service or sacrifice to the people around us with whatever knowledge or information we may have gained up to this point. For you Libra Risings, let us know how this one comes up for you. For Scorpio Rising, we get to experience this full moon in the 8th house. The 8th house is the esteem of others, or the other people's money, right? It's other people's resources from the outside, not our own. It can also be seen as a house of karma. But when we have a full moon in the 8th house, it's like the karma is reaching its fulfillment, beginning to start a new cycle. And karma is just naturally cause and effect. What efforts have we put forth in our experience to reap what we've sown? Have we done the things that we need to do in order to receive a gain? Or have we done nothing and get to reap the consequences of that? Whatever the case may be, it just is. We're here to notice and understand from our actions what comes. When we look at the full moon in Gemini, we want to look to the dispositor, Mercury. Mercury in our first house of self, of expression, of identity, can show that as it's stationed direct, we need to express ourselves more authentically. We need to allow our minds to be free of the internal conflict and follow the direction that feels best to us. Listening for our own creative virtues, our own values that we have, and the information, the knowledge that we've gained up to this point. How are we going to use our creative endeavors in order to share the knowledge or the truth that we may have received in a beneficial way? When we think about that 8th house full moon in the sign of Gemini, there has to be something that we're letting go of, and it can be correlated with our own self, our own identity. This rebirth process, when we think about that retrogradation process, Mercury moving back from our 2nd house in Sagittarius, our skills, talents, and abilities, back into our 1st house, can speak directly to the things that we've gained and the things that we know how to do. And all of these things, these abilities, these skills, taking a refresher. We're choosing to use them in a different way now. So that way we can share ourselves in a reborn format, a new way that can be beneficial to our own emotional satiation and our own security, whether it's mentally or physically, whatever the case may be. As this one shows up, Scorpio Risings, let us know in the comments how it's affecting you directly. Now I move into Sagittarius Risings, who experience this full moon in Gemini in the 7th house of one-on-one relationship. When we think about the 7th house in traditional astrology, we also can see this as the setting place, or the place of completion where things come to an end. But with every ending, there's always a beginning. So when we look at the 7th house, and the full moon culmination point, there is a high point in our relational capacities, in our communication, that we need to be mindful of. And when we look at Scorpio, where Mercury has just stationed direct in the 12th house, we can begin to notice that there are things about ourselves that are coming to the light. And maybe it's going to come from our one-on-one relationships, a conversation that we can have that's going to spark some clarity and say, I didn't know that I was operating in that way, or how did I not see myself before? So as a Sagittarius rising, we get the opportunity to listen to the people that we connect ourselves with. And it's going to give you the opportunity to move into a deeper connection with yourself. Get over the previous karmas that have been accrued, and connect and understand our family or our upbringing, our foundation a little bit better as Mercury moves forward and reactivates that grand water trine that we have been experiencing over the last couple weeks. So Sagittarius risings, let's see how this one comes up. We're moving into Capricorn risings, who will experience the full moon in the 6th house. The 6th house is the house of our daily work or efforts, our house of sacrifice, or it can be the health of our physical body. I like to correlate the sign of Gemini with communication. It is our close-knit groups, right? It's like our friend group here, our friend group there. And it's the people that we connect with in order to be in a connection. What is it? It is what is the word that I'm looking for? What is the word I'm looking for? When two or more are gathered together, miracles happen, right? So when Gemini has people to connect with and communicate with, Gemini has the opportunity to be inspired and experience love and communication in that connection. So having the full moon in the 6th house here gives Capricorn risings the opportunity to work towards the goals that it set for itself in the community realm. So when we have Mercury in the sign of Scorpio in the 11th house, it can show that our acquaintances or the communities that we may be a part of are at the forefront of our mind. They are taking precedence in this experience right now, and how we want to connect with them, what we have to share with these people. The sign of the sign of Scorpio in the 11th house is going to be connecting with those other houses, the 7th house and the 3rd house, the communication oriented houses. So when Mercury moves forward, it's going to be reactivating that grand water trine to show that Capricorn risings, the community that we're involved with, our one-on-one relationships, possibly from that community, and our daily experiences wrapped around those communities are very important right now for this full moon, and how we choose to take action in them, how we choose to communicate. Just noticing what we have to offer for Capricorn risings. We're going to move forward to listen to Aquarius risings, who will experience the full moon in the sign of Gemini in the 5th house. The 5th house is creativity, can be seen as romance as well. So this culmination point in the 5th house for Aquarius can show that there's something that we need to release around creativity, our creative endeavors, maybe the way that we communicate or we choose to think about these things can show up in our public role, because Mercury is in the sign of Scorpio in the 10th house, and it's correlated with our career endeavors as well. So maybe it's time to be more creative, especially if we have our own business. Maybe it's time to be more authentic in our ways of expression or bringing these ideas that we have to fruition. We've probably had enough time to think over them, going through this seeming state of limbo. In my own personal experience with this Mercury retrograde, it's like, where is this direction taking me? Feels like nothing is going on. So as Aquarius risings with career and public role, maybe things have felt stagnant. And now that Mercury station direct is preparing to reactivate the grand water trine, connecting the 10th house with the second house of financial well-being and the 6th house of our daily efforts, it can show that our creative endeavors can be closely knit to what we have to offer in order to receive financially, in order to sacrifice for the people around us, or be of service with the abilities or the skills that we may have. So as an Aquarius rising, notice how this is coming up for you, and maybe what communities you're a part of right now and how you can be of service to them. Now we're going to look at the last sign of the day, Pisces Rising, who is experiencing the full moon in the 4th house of our foundation, our upbringing. It could be our family, our own home, where our family, if we have a family as parents and children, live. As a Pisces rising, you're experiencing this place of solitude coming to a culmination. Maybe there's something that you need to release. Maybe the way that you communicate with your family is changing. When we have Mercury in the 9th house, it can show that we may have come into a new teaching or a new truth that is playing a big part in our own personal experience that has not allowed us to move forward yet until we've gained more clarity on it. Because sometimes when we come into awareness of a new belief or a new system that we may become involved in, we can just take it and run with it and see it as God, and let everybody else around us know this is the way, this is what I need to do, and you should come do it with me too. But when Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Scorpio, it's like we're floating through the depths of the deep dark waters and we can't see what direction we're going in. But when it stations to go direct, it's like now all of a sudden we're being drawn in the right direction. There's not much you really have to do. So now maybe the insights are beginning to make more sense. Maybe clarity is coming along with clarification around these things that you may have been learning, Pisces rising. And that Mercury moving forward is going to reactivate the 1st house of the self and the 5th house of creativity. So what is it that we've learned, Pisces rising, that have influenced us directly for us to be able to use it in our creative endeavors and transform our upbringing or the way we operate in our familial dynamics? Just notice how this one's coming up for you, Pisces rising. This is going to be a powerful full moon for us. So please leave some comments if you have any stories you'd like to share. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. It helps Align Astrology to grow, for more people to see these videos. And if you have any insight or you want me to make particular astrology videos, please leave them down in the comments. I'll be happy to take that into consideration. Please like the video if you have not already. And thanks so much for being here. My name is Casey, and this is Align Astrology. Until the next time.